Hey Gooners, this is Alan Smith.
This is Kevin Campbell.
Lee Dixon.
Colin Lewin.
It's Gary Lewin.
Charles Watts.
Dan Potts.
James Benge.
Danny.
Tom from the Gooner Talk here.
Ryan O'Cross.
Simon Collins. You may know me from the Evening Standard.
You may know me for my time at Arsenal.
You may know me from Arsenal or even the Hybrid Squad.
I'm a Birdcat Wonderland.
Being that physio sat on the bench next to Arsenal with my rubber gloves on.
The former Arsenal physio.
The Emirates Press Box, from writing, from Twitter.
From goal.com, from Twitter, from YouTube.
Football is the beautiful game and it brings us all together.
Sometimes there are things even more important than wins and losses.
And yes, even transfers.
Every 30 seconds, someone in this world gets diagnosed with blood cancer.
The Leukemia and Lymphoma Society works towards curing blood cancers
and provides support to families currently dealing with these diseases.
Gooners vs Cancer was started in 2017
by a lifelong Gooner who lost his father to leukemia way too young.
Since 2017, Gooners v Cancer has raised
over $75,000 for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society.
And we need your help to keep the fundraising going in this year's campaign.
Every donation helps.
Every donation helps.
Every donation helps.
Every donation helps.
No matter the size.
And every donation enters you into the Gooner raffle,
where you have a great chance to win amazing Arsenal prizes,
including game tickets, stadium tours,
signed men and women's shirts,
and maybe a retro signed shirt by yours truly, Lee Dixon.
Me, yours truly.
Yours truly, Super Kev Campbell.
So much more.
It's easy to take part.
Just go to www.goonersvcancer.com
and donate directly to the charity.
Pick the raffle prizes you want to enter to win,
and wait for the drawings at the end of the campaign.
Again, that's www.goonersversuscancer.com.
We all know that victory grows out of harmony.
Victory grows out of harmony.
Victory grows out of harmony.
With your help, we'll be victorious against blood cancer once and for all.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you for your support.
Thanks for your support.
Thanks for your support.
Thank you for your support. All right, Mikey. It is 6 a.m. in England. It is 1 a.m. on the East Coast. It is just an early 10 p.m. still on Sunday.
10 for me.
For Mikey out in California, and it is like supposedly 4:30 p.m. or something, 5 o'clock p.m. in Australia, where we're missing Max. We do not have Max right now, but we're going to bring in somebody who, frankly, has been an inspiration to me, and you'll probably know why, because he has not changed his Twitter handle, but he has changed his life and his look. Look at you, man.
Ridiculous.
Big Steve, who I think when you were on with us 2 years ago, you were driving around in the cab. One of the years you were driving around, near the cliffs of Dover, and then one of the other years you were lying on your couch. Was it last year you were lying on your couch?
No, that was 2 years ago.
That was 2 years, and you were recovering, correct?
Yeah, I was in bed, couldn't do nothing, and then Nunny was out walking his dogs.
Beautiful. And Ryan, I love that you're sticking with us for all 27 hours. Thank you for doing that. It's getting into the middle of the night hours, so this is where it's going to get tough, Ryan. But I appreciate it. So, Steve, it's a pleasure to have you on again. You always help me through the early morning hours, which I appreciate. I treat you like ass by giving you the 6 a.m. hour, but it's only because this is when I could start to get tired, and I will never get tired talking to you. So
no, absolutely, that's why I'm up. It's 6 o'clock, as you say. I've been up since about 20 past 5, and I'm fucked. I've had about 4 hours sleep. I know that's nothing compared to you, but I'm sure you'll find time to recover. I won't.
I'll find some time. So when everyone's around, everyone in the chat, just this is going to be a little bit more free form hour. Whether Max shows up or not, we'll see. But tell us what you want us to talk about. Because, obviously we're going to talk about Arsenal. It's just an open format. So, go. Steve, what do you want to talk about? We have not talked
Congratulations, you're
about
the
a bunch of
host.
different topics,
Go
but
for it.
you get me started, and then we'll probably just kind of go from there.
What do I want to talk about?
Yeah, what would you like to talk about for this for the hour that we have together?
Well, I mean, obviously we've not got any Max, so I assumed at some point there would be a mention of I don't know, chubby for the kids, you know. No, not. I was thinking, you know, I thought someone is going to mention chubby for the kids this morning, and I just want to say that chubby was right, because at the moment Eddie Nketiah, Reece Nelson, Bukayo Saka, all these young players are absolutely doing their business. So 3-4 years ago, when I was getting ripped into for saying, no, just bide your time, these guys will get their minutes and they will play a part of the squad. They're not good enough to, you know, lead the team. I mean, Bukayo Saka, I don't think there was any question there. But these guys, where everyone wanted to ship them out and get rid as soon as possible, they're now part of this process. They're part. Let's talk about the Chiefs game.
The Detroit Gooner wants to talk about the Chiefs game.
Well, no, we're talking about proper football here, not hand egg.
Love it.
So yeah, no, I assumed that there would be a talk about our young guys from Hayland and who are the next crop, because yeah, you know, historically I've got a chubby for the kids.
So I'm getting uncomfortable with that being said so many times on the podcast.
we have a four-time limit.
I just looked at the monetization, and as you said that, it was like fuck
just
no.
dropped.
Yeah, it was, no.
Can they issue you refunds for your donations, Mike? Because I
mean the ability to be allowed to monetize. I don't mean the amount of money. I mean the ability to do it because of the language and the stuff. But no,
And so you decided to get me and Max on at the same time.
Well, yeah, that's why I have you on at 6 a.m. in the UK and 1 a.m. in the East Coast, because you know,
very nice.
No one's watching.
Seriously, so yeah, let's talk about Helen. Who do you anticipate being of anyone who has not started a game for Arsenal on the first team? Who do you anticipate being the next one to break in and play, maybe have maybe more than 5 appearances in a season? I mean, let's set some rules here.
I think this year with the cups and the injury to Timber, I do think Real Waters will come through and start getting some minutes. He's gone back out on loan again, but I think the next one that will... Yes, someone just mentioned Patino in the chat. I think he's got a chance. Ethan... I can't even... Nwaneri, yeah. I think he looks good, but I think he may end up being another Balogun. I think we tie him down, we send him out on loan, we see what happens, but I think his agents are already in his ear. So I think he could go, but I think Norton Cuffy. I think in terms of what he could bring that we don't currently have at fullback, the only player close is probably Tavares, and he's not going to get a look in on the left hand side. I think Norton Cuffy as an explosive, as a pacey, sort of powerful running fullback, I think he could start to come through once he's back from loan. But other than that, because the guys that are in the squad, they're playing so often at the moment, I can't see too many young kids breaking through at the moment.
Yeah, I think the entry point seems to be a little bit more difficult because now we're in Champions League, right? When we were playing Europa League and playing with a bunch of teams that, I mean, they play in smaller, not so competitive leagues, it kind of opened up the doors for us to be able to play a 16, 17-year-old kid, right? I mean, we saw how young some of our players were, Martinelli, Saka, who all made their debuts there. So it's becoming a little bit more difficult. So your point, Steve, like you need to almost rely on a really easy draw in the League Cup or a really bad string of injuries that's going to be like, well, shit, there's nobody else to play at this point. So it's going to put us in a really bad spot in the league if one of them is starting. I had this like controversial take when we were talking about right backs about, I think they were mentioning Walters that you mentioned, and after the Timber injury, and I was kind of like, listen, I take everybody's points that Walter is up and coming, but one of my most unpopular opinions in the fan base is I legitimately rather see Cedric with senior football play before him. And,
absolutely.
And it's, and I know we haven't been able to see him a whole lot, but I'm always nervous about that, and the fact that they don't have the ability to test the waters in Europa League like they do this time around. It's so little space. So when the comments about Patino wanting to leave to pursue a career in football somewhere else came about, honestly, I kind of looked at it like fair play, because he's seen how everything is mapping out in the club. He's seen that they just brought in Kai Havertz, Declan Rice in that midfield. He already has, Trossard is playing. He's on fire. Partey is already part of the team when he's not playing a right back. In case of emergencies, I can't blame a young player for kind of tiptoeing, thinking, shoot, maybe I'm kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out, because the window of opportunity is so much less now with the competition. So it's growing pains, and I'm going to say it's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
Here's a counterpoint to that. We spent a shitload of money over the last 3 or 4 years bringing in first team talent, bringing in people to compete for first team talent. I mean, all 11 of our starters now that Xhaka's gone, I believe, turned over in the last 3 years, which is pretty amazing. Unless I'm forgetting somebody who's still playing. That, I mean, maybe other than Bukayo Saka, I guess. But and at some point, we are going to, as a team, I think, start reining things back in to become financially sustainable again. And, financially sustainable doesn't mean we have to stop spending money on transfers. It means that our ability to spend money on transfers is going to largely depend on how we do in Europe and what kind of television revenues we get and so on and so forth. And there's the matter of a large loan that the owners have given that, unlike certain clubs like Everton and unlike certain owners like Roman Abramovich, I don't know that they're not planning on getting paid back that loan. Maybe, hopefully with very little to no interest. But I do think, some of our profits are going to go towards making up for the losses from the last few years, and everyone will start hating the Cronkies all over again for that. Russ will be off of his tits. But my point in all of this is to say that I almost see a window over the next few years where we may, start pushing some players through. Initially bench appearances, then 10, 15-minute sub appearances in games where, things are kind of settled. And, and if there happens to be a deep double or triple injury in a particular position, then we might see, Ruel Walters, we might see Lewis Skelly, we might see Nwaneri actually, get another look. So it wouldn't shock me to see 1 or 2 kind of make it at least into the game day rotation of regular players over the next 2 or 3 years for that reason. I just don't see us continuing to just, Partey's getting old, we're going to buy the best new DM on the market on top of Declan Rice. Martinelli had a thigh injury, we're just going to go buy somebody. I mean, we're going to eventually start using some of our new depth, to take care of that and then bring people up from the academy. I don't necessarily know who those players are going to be exactly, but I think if you're playing for the U21s or U23s or even the U18s under Jack, I think you could still be talked into having a future with Arsenal. And I think that's why Ethan Nwaneri re-signed. I mean, he inked a new deal. So I'm not so sure that his agents are pushing him for a move right now, because if they were pushing him for a move so hard, they would not have resisted the Man Cities of the world, Mike, and committed his future to Arsenal. I mean, whether he goes someplace else or makes it with us, still to be determined. But
this is the thing. I think we saw it with Omari Hutchinson going to Chelsea. I think because their path isn't clear at Arsenal currently, I think their agents are probably looking at where can you get a better deal for now. And I think financially they can probably get that from another club. But if the point being that they're still not going to get minutes at these clubs, they will go elsewhere. I mean, we saw it. Cole Palmer, he started doing exactly what you just said, starting to get minutes when things were settled at Man City, and then they've sold him for 40 million. We've obviously done some good business with Balogun. But with Balogun, it's slightly different because he just expected to just walk into the side. And as good as this kid could be, and I believe he has got a higher ceiling than Eddie Nketiah, I don't think his attitude is quite right for this club at the moment. I think the expectation to just walk in and be given a chance based on a season elsewhere. And as good as he was, it is also a league where Lacazette scored more than him. And I think we talk about the French league quite often. So I think it's very important to have some context with that with Balogun. But there are groups of people that don't want to see the whole picture when it comes to Balogun. They think that Arteta's an idiot and he's just getting rid of the next best thing. Oh, but he scored 21 goals in his first proper season of adult football.
Because there's no information to prove that opinion wrong, people think it's justified.
Yeah. But I think with Nwaneri and some of these other young players, I think they want to stay at the club. They want to be getting minutes and starting to get a path into a team. And I think they won't get that at another big club the same way they won't possibly get it at Arsenal as a given. But I think, as you say, we are going to have to start blooding these players eventually, because we're not going to have the resources and the money to just keep on throwing at new players every single window.
So as much as I like to romanticize about our tail-end kids all coming through and playing for the Arsenal, there is another perspective on youth in football, and it's a good avenue to make money. And I know that people don't think about this a whole lot because they look at Balogun and say, wasted opportunity. He could have scored 10, 15 goals for us. But also, he cost the club $0 and was sold for 40 plus. So if we end up, and I say this over and over, Mike, we've been on this pod together for 3-4 hours at this point, but I'm a romantic of the game of football. I love all the vibes, and I love everything of seeing Helen kids come through the ranks and play. Like, I still remember and hold the Spurs game near and dear to my heart where Smith Rowe and Saka just tore them apart. That's like peak Arsenal experience. But at the same time, if you tell me we could flip Nwaneri, Walters, one of them, whoever one that's coming up, if we could flip them next year for 20 mil, I still look at that as a successful bit of business for the club. And I know that's, again,
that's been Chelsea's entire strategy.
Exactly. That's where I was going to head. That's been their whole thing.
And I'm not just talking about like with Mount and Hudson-Odoi and those guys. I'm talking about with players you've never even come close to hearing about. They brought them in for nothing. They paid them a few £100 a week, and then they sold them for $4 million. That's unbelievable business. But they did it to the point where it was their strategy. Their youth academy was not about, and I'm pretty much echoing what you just said, it was not about getting future Chelsea players. It was about generating essentially burn, like just spending money to be able to keep everything going. And every once in a while you'll hit the jackpot. I mean, for a while Mason Mount looked like a future 100 million pound player in the style of Saka, Foden, and so on. I don't know that that's his destiny anymore, unless he can refine health and form. But it's somewhere in between what Chelsea used to do with abuse of the loan system and what we're doing, where you just feel like if you don't see a path to the first team, you're running your contract down and you're leaving. Has to be where Arsenal are, because as our players get better, and I've said this a lot, as our first team gets better, as our the rest of our squad gets better, the people who cannot break into our squad get evaluated as an asset as opposed to a waste. And that's why you've seen teams like Liverpool and Chelsea in their best years in the first team, sell Jordan Ibe for 16 million, get ridiculous money for for God knows who. I forget the Dominic Solanke. I mean, you're going to get that, and and when those players go to the new teams and become even just serviceable Premier League players or upper championship players, that just reinforces the concept that, hey, you know, we're going to shop in Chelsea's academy, we're going to shop in Liverpool's academy, and it's an expensive shop for us to go to, but we're going to find it. We're going to find a jewel, and Arsenal are just not that club right now, and but I think we're headed there.
Okay, every time we bring up Chelsea and loans, I always have to pick this specific player to talk about because it's still like blows my mind. For one, we often talk about youth players leaving, and the live chat is kind of having a conversation about this, about players being a little bit smarter, because there are some players that like Hutchison leaving us for Chelsea. It's not the best decision for your career. And there's been plenty like that. Van der Beek going to Manchester United. There's some youth players that have to be a little smarter with their decisions. And I don't know if it's just their agent telling them and fooling them that these are right moves for them. But, dude, we see so many talented young players throw their careers down the drain because they want to go and chase the money at Chelsea or United and then inevitably just waste 3-4 years of their career. But the player that I'm referring to, Steve, is Lucas Piasson. He's a Brazilian player that was bought by Chelsea in 2012. And from there, back to back, et cetera, he has been on loan to Malaga, some club that I can't even pronounce, then Frankfurt, then Reading, then Fulham, then Rio, then Braga, and now he's currently on loan to Botafogo. So he has been there since 2012.
And he's still a Chelsea player.
He is still a Chelsea player. He is loaned out to a Brazilian club. And that has to be like one of the most wildest piece of football agent shenanigans that I've ever seen, dude. Legitimately.
So how old is this guy? He's got to be pushing 30, right?
Well, yeah. Let me see. He's 29.
He's 29.
Yeah.
And he
arrived.
He's never played a game for Chelsea.
No. It's the most like bogus thing, because I remember when they signed him, it was like, oh my God, Chelsea signed the next Brazilian star, and you know, every player that moves from Brazil he's the next Kaká, the next Ronaldo. It happens all the time, and like Mikey's whole thing. Like,
how long was his contract?
Well, he upped. That's the funny thing.
Who's 29?
Lucas Piasson, because we were talking about.
Oh yeah, the keeper from Chicago.
He's a Brazilian kid that Chelsea bought in 2012, and he's actually extended his contract. He has now been on 2, 4, 6. It is eight different teams on loan. He has yet to kick a ball for Chelsea, and
there's a ton of those.
I find that wild, dude.
When you look on Wikipedia or Transfer Market, as Tom called it this morning. I don't know if it's actually Transfer Market. I know it's spelled without the E in there, so Transfer Market. I'll take Tom's pronunciation, but I mean, you see like on Transfer Market, it's the player going back and forth because they treat it like a transaction where the player comes back from loan. It's an incoming, so the player just is like on both sides of the ledger like this. And on Wikipedia, it's Chelsea 2009 to 2020, and then you just see loan. It's unbelievable how many players are like that. It's absurd. I mean, they're not usually getting loan fees, but they can get loan fees depending on the player. You've got guys that, it's unbelievable that that's their parent club. I didn't know Conor Gallagher was a Chelsea player until it was pointed out to me. I didn't know Tomori. Was it Tomori? No, it's the guy that they loaned out a bunch of times that just absolutely never was going to make it at Chelsea, but they do this. Crazy.
Well, I only know.
I was thinking of Gabe Slonina, Rob. You're absolutely right.
I mean, we had Wellington Silva, didn't we?
Yeah, but that issue it was about the fact that he couldn't get a work permit, right?
Yeah.
There was another one that I honestly, just because we're speaking about youth and how many clubs they go through, is they because of Mike McDonald's brilliant quiz. And James Johnson, who I'm convinced had the answers, because Jesus, that man is so good.
That was a great debut. I got to give it to you.
That was absolutely amazing. For those of you that don't know, that was like hour 2, hour 3. And I know Mike normally posts the segments individually, so look out for it. Mike McDonald does this brilliant quiz, but he mentioned Michael Elise. I had no idea he went through Chelsea and Manchester City youth before somebody mentioned also Arsenal.
Yeah.
Before he inevitably ended up with Crystal Palace. I found that just like mind blowing. Mark McGuane, there's a name that I remember.
Yeah, Marcus
the
McGuane
Arsenal
came
fan,
out of that.
and this has kind of become like my new favorite thing because every youth player that leaves is the end of the world because he's the next Ballon d'Or, right?
Yeah.
And he was like, oh my god, when he was leaving to Barcelona, I think I want to say that he left.
Yeah.
People were absolutely losing their shit, and I'm like,
because if he's good enough for Barcelona, he should have been starting for us, you know, at 15 ahead of whoever it was that played.
It was Barcelona B.
It was Barcelona. Yeah, it's just there's always a
Pep's former team,
a backlash of a youth player leaving, but the statistically speaking, there's substantially more that leave Arsenal and end up having a more or less average career. I think I'm thinking about like Joe Willock's brother. I think he ended up going to Portugal, and Joe Willock decided to stick around, and now he's playing in like the second or third division of English football. So there's always that reaction of like, you know, like, and Patino seems to be a really good talent player, and that clearly believes in him to get him to extend his contract and go out on loan and not force a move like it was reported that he wanted to do. But it's one of those things where like I always find it amazing that like we just got Declan Rice, and in the same summer, Patino is rumored to be leaving, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, don't let him leave!" And I'm like, "When is he gonna fucking play?" That's like that's my whole interpretation. And like, I understand Mike's point a little bit earlier on, where you're gonna inevitably have to believe these players in, but
I think that's it. That's exactly it, and that's why, I mean, even though they're not academy players, I look at Lokonga and Tavares going out on loan to Premier League clubs, and I know these guys have been written off already, but Tavares is raw, and I think Tavares could potentially play a part in this squad because he offers something different. I think him going out on loan to a Premier League club that is down the bottom rather than just selling him for 7-8 million, I think is a good bit of business. I think Tierney going out on loan rather than selling him, as much as it's frustrating that he's not going to be in the squad at the moment, considering the injury to Timber, I completely get it, because if Gabriel does, for instance, go to Saudi, then being able to bring Kieran Tierney back and then move Timber centrally long term, I think that's I believe there's probably one eye on that rather than sell Tierney and just sort of let him get his minutes that way. I think hopefully someone's had the conversation, look, go out on loan for the season. We don't know what's happening with Gabriel if he ends up going, or we need you to play a part of this squad. I think we could see that, but Tavares and Lokonga going out on loan to shit Premier League clubs, I think is a good thing, because we're going to be able to see what they can do in that situation, and if they are made for the Premier League. And I think, these young players, Patino, Ranieri, I think, as you say, inevitably they are probably going to have to be blooded at some point, because if Partey does go, or anything happens with Partey, we're then one down. We're then a midfielder down. And are we going to have 50, 60, 70 million to then go and spend on another midfielder after we've just spent on Declan Rice, Kai Havertz, all these other guys? I don't know. We're not going to be able to do that sustainably. So it's a nice predicament to have. But as you say, as soon as somebody leaves or there's talk about them leaving, everybody's losing their shit, and they haven't even kicked a ball for us. And as you say, you look at McGuane, there was Steffi Mavididi, when, again, the talk, because he went to Juventus wanted him, so why are we not keeping him at Arsenal? And now he's playing at Leicester in the Championship, and he didn't do well at Charlton. As you say, Joe Willock's brother, he's now at QPR. I think it's a good problem to have, but it's still one of those things. What do you do? What is the right thing to do?
It was recently
you're never going to win.
Just in the past week, the wise man known as Emmanuel Frimpong said very astutely, the biggest mistake you can make in a lot of cases as a youth player is leaving Arsenal. I mean, it's not to say it's never going to work out for you, but he's like, I wish I hadn't left. He didn't leave as a youth player, and it was injury and squad progression that led to that. But they were driving around Colney, him and Frimpong, which we're going to talk about with Frimpong in a couple hours.
There's a few players like that. Kleb. Sorry, however you pronounce that. I'm butchering his name. When he went to Barcelona, he had a pretty decent season for us, and he ended up going to Barcelona, and like we ended up seeing him in the Europa League. I remember that, where we went to his hometown and he was taking selfies with the Arsenal players. Yeah. And then I had his name at the tip of my tongue right now. Anelka. I would make an argument that Anelka would have had a bigger legacy in the world of football had he stuck around for a little bit longer. Thank you, Clock Orange. It was Fleb. Yeah. So that guy was a baller, and it was unfortunately he ended up having to leave. Mike, Kevin Campbell, you might know him. The name seems very familiar.
This guy's
Possibly.
Always up early in the morning, putting great comments out there on Twitter. I mean, you know, I think I got to try to get to know this guy a little bit better, but yeah, Kevin, who we'll be seeing in about 5 hours or so. Hey, Magic Mike, and Big Steve, hope you're well. Guys, do fans have to understand that squad is most important and not the best 11? That's a loaded question because I think that may be his opinion expressed there. But yeah, that it's absolutely true. And this is a guy who knows a little bit about coming out of the youth team and making it into the first team, especially in a time frame where the first team was pretty hard to break into based on the talent that we had, and B, one, maybe two people on the bench rather than 9 or 8 or 9. So yeah, I mean the squad we have strengthened as a squad, and I think it. I don't know. Tell me what you think about this. I mean, as a youth player, you don't dream of the pinnacle of your career just being picked to be the 18 and not be on the pitch, be just there to make up numbers. But I do think that if you foresee that in your future, then it becomes up to you as to whether you force your way in there or not. So, Omari Hutchison, I mean, what a mistake, in my opinion. I mean, he would have been better off, although lower paid, he would have been better off going to, Norwich or something like that if he wasn't going to stay at Arsenal.
Well, I mean, in the All or Nothing thing, the clip that constantly is now being posted around Twitter every time Eddie Nketiah has a half decent game is what he said to Lukonga. He's like, oh, what? Oh, sorry, was it Lukonga or was it Tavares? It was Lukonga, wasn't it? Yeah. I'm not being that guy. But he makes a very good point. He's like, what? I'm not playing. Like, work hard, put your head down, and you'll get picked. Like, they're all in the same boat. And I think Lukonga had chances and didn't capitalize at all. And
he was put in some tough situations, but to be fair, like
which is why I like the fact that we didn't just get rid of him, because I think we're seeing with Fabio Vieira this season only glimpses that actually you write someone off completely, and what is the point? Because you have to put everything into context. Obviously, we've still got Cedric in the squad. I don't think Cedric offers us much at all, but he's still there. Whereas someone like El Neni, I know he gets a hell of a lot of stick. And sort of talking about Kevin's point there, is a squad more important? I think sometimes yes, because if the starting 11 does have its holes, who is going to back that up? And it's got to be the right players that back it up. Which everyone's saying, oh, why didn't we just keep Pepe to have behind Saka if he's not, if we can't sell him, why not keep him? Well, because when he does get his moment to step up and step into the shoes of Bukayo Saka, is he really going to be giving his 100% for that? Or is he going to have in the back of his mind, oh, well, it doesn't matter what I do. I could have the best game, score 7 goals, but am I going to start next week if Bukayo is fit? Probably not. Whereas someone like Reece Nelson, I think, has in his mind, I just have to do the best I can, regardless of what happens next week. Someone like Mohamed El Neni, I've got to do the best I can, regardless of what happens next week. And I think you need those players in the squad, rather than guys that just want to get their minutes, get their money, and if they're not playing, don't want to give everything. And
I think if you're not one of those guys, then you're not going to be playing for Arsenal. I mean, that is one of the. I think one of the non-negotiables is you have to take a lack of playing time as a challenge and not an insult.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the reasons why we sold Balogun.
Yep.
I think if Balogun's attitude were, if he wasn't expecting to just walk in, then he would have stayed. And someone mentioned Serge Gnabry, and I think with Gnabry it was slightly different. I think he had a pathway to be able to get to the top. Bayern were tapping him up for years. Bayern initiated the loan deals.
Yeah.
Bayern were behind that whole pathway, and at a time when Gnabry was getting his chances in the first team, did well. And then who was starting over him the week after? Aaron Ramsey as a right midfielder. And I think as an agent, as a player, family, friends around that time, yes, he was injury prone. And yes, perhaps, there are rumors that he wasn't working as hard because of his issue with, when he was at West Brom. And again, with West Brom, I think it was Tony Pulis at the time made the point that just because he comes from a Premier League club doesn't mean he's going to walk in and decide. But I think Arsenal also had that expectation that he was going to go to West Brom and he was going to get minutes, whereas he turned around and said, no, you're not going to just walk in just because you're a Premier League player. Same thing with Eddie Nketiah. The reason Eddie didn't play at Leeds was not because he wasn't good enough, because every time he stepped onto that pitch, that season, Patrick Bamford couldn't hit a barn door. Yeah. Every time that he stepped onto the pitch, he was getting his goals. He played well. But Bielsa said, he's not just coming here and just going to walk in at the side just because he's from Arsenal. And I think that's the same with these young players that have a good loan spell away or get a few minutes and do well. You're not always going to just walk in. As Tom said, the Gnabry one is a little bit more fishy, but the point being, he needed to get those minutes and there was a pathway offered to him. But also, whilst he was at Arsenal, he was doing the best he could. He was putting in the performances and not getting rewarded by that. And we saw that quite often with Arsene Wenger. We've seen it a few times with Mikel Arteta. I think we see it generally, and I think part of that is probably to do with the attitude. It's like, how do you then overcome this if we say, right, our guy's fit again and he comes in? The only reason he was out, Emi Martinez, another good example. He came in due to injury. Yes, he performed well, but there was no reason at the time to drop Bird Leno. There was no reason for that. So the conversation would have been, you have to still prove yourself. You still have to work, because once Bernd's fit, he's the man. You're only in this shirt because of those circumstances. And if you don't want to kind of knuckle down and fight your way in, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah,
I'm just reading this comment from,
and I've kept this comment up because TJR 2109 says, I'm so sick of that clip. The thing is, Nketiah knows the camera's there. He's also meant to be a leader of that group. I have so many thoughts about this. My thought about that is, yes, everyone throughout the entire thing knew that the camera was there. But I mean, if that were the only reason that we thought that Nketiah was, felt that way and that he was playing up for the camera, then fine. But I mean, I think in the year and a half since that was likely filmed, or maybe 2 years since that was likely filmed, he's shown Mikel Arteta and everyone around him and a poise and the ability to put his head down, take his opportunities, which have, I would say, unfortunately been far too many due to injuries to Gabby Jesus, but take his opportunities. And when his opportunities start to dry up, as we may be about to see again in the coming weeks and months, I hope, just because I hope that Gabby Jesus is able to play more, I don't think he won't rue that he's not starting anymore. Same thing with Aaron Ramsdale saying, bring it on, competition is good. I think Eddie Nketiah gets it. And, whether it was his background, how he's brought up, his coaching in a youth level, although that started to take place at Chelsea, but whatever it is, he is a consummate professional and he works his ass off. And I don't think it was just for the camera. In that moment, maybe it was, but I mean, Sambi Lokonga also knew that the camera was on him and he didn't come out of that smelling like roses. So
on the non-negotiables and kind of personality to persevere in an Arteta squad, something that comes to mind a lot to me, speaking about the All or Nothing documentary, was Pepe. You know how you mentioned that you almost have to be willing to be a part-time player and still willing to die the minute you step on that field and off that field? Pepe is one of those players that if you saw, I still have this image in my head where it was a massive win. and everybody was like losing their crap in the locker room. Everybody was celebrating. Arteta's going like patting everybody down, like celebrating, and he goes and he shakes Pepe, like, be happy, celebrate, we just won. And Pepe's just looking there, just like demoralized. And I understand, like, I don't know if this was playing up from the cameras while we're like, you know, looking at that angle, but he was just looking demoralized. And it was clear that he was looking demoralized because he wasn't playing. But that's not the type of character that Arteta seemingly wants. He wants everything within this club to move in a positive direction. So when a player is just sitting there moping after a big win, that's a massive red flag for him. And it kind of shows to the Eddie Nketiah thing is it sure shows what perseverance would do. We saw Nelson, Bournemouth, the hard work. I mean, look, he helped change the game a lot the last time he was on the pitch for us this last game. So he's one of those players. I remember there's one, it was like they were taking the piss out on Nenny, but it's kind of like this is what a Nenny does. And in which it was like, do you guys remember the time where Nenny came in feisty and ready to die for the last 20 seconds of his game? And it was one of those games where Arteta was just wasting the time, but Nenny just came in sprinting.
This was a game against Manchester United, I believe, and there was a video about how, like, you know, I think United were passing the ball back and forth, trying to find a way to break through, and Nenny was just like literally just running from person to person.
No, that was the was it the 2-0 win or the 1-0? That was when him and Partey started away at Old Trafford. He started.
There was one where he just.
I'm talking about I was talking about a late sub.
I know. I think that clip that you're on about, that was like the 88th minute, and he was just still going.
Oh yeah, maybe it was.
Oh no, the game Mike on about. He came on and he was literally on for maybe a minute, and he was again just sprinting around. And you know, Fergus has made this point many times over the years, and obviously I've always been a fan of El Neni, but every team needs a water carrier. Every team needs a water boy, and I think we've seen it with some of the social media posts this year and some of the guys' Instagrams. Like, El Neni's a very key part of that squad. He is a senior player. He doesn't get the minutes, but every time he steps on that pitch, he works his bollocks off. And you're not going to get much with El Neni, but he doesn't do much wrong. And I'm not saying that that's good enough. And I'm, you know, if that's me accepting mediocrity, then great. But if we're going away to, let's say, Brentford in the cup, let's say our midfield is shot to shit. We got injuries. We need to get through. You know, we can't crash out. Who are you going to put in a game like that? Are you going to put in a Mohamed El Neni next to, let's say, I don't know, Kai Havertz? Or are you going to put in Nwaneri next to Kai Havertz? You know, yes, it's Brentford. Yes, it's in the cup. They may be rotating, but you go with El Neni
every time.
Yeah, 100%.
I have heard from Max. He says, "I got my effing times wrong." He thought he was coming on in 15 minutes with the next crew, but
well, he's more than welcome. We are a man down currently going into that next one, if I'm not mistaken. So he might.
No, if you're here, then no, we'll have our 4, which is what we wanted.
Okay.
But so yeah, I mean, El Neni with the experience, you gotta take that. I forgot where. I do want to take a couple minutes to do a little bit of housekeeping, because I'm seeing some new names in the chat. I'm seeing some people returning from last night, and who have now gotten sleep, you bastards, and are bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, as my mom used to say. We are in our 13 of the podcast, and so we're almost to the halfway point. We've got an amazing morning UK time, middle of the night US time guest coming up. I'm very excited about it. But please go to goonersvcancer.com if you haven't already. Please donate to the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. We are currently at 25,805 for the year. And that's 10,500 for this podcast event.
10,000.
Since we started collecting on Tuesday, I try to push people to donate before the event so that they can be entered in every single prize drawing. And so I start counting from Tuesday when we released everything, and we are at $10,505. which last year from the entire podcast right up to the end, it was 6,816. So we're
Really
killing
smashing it. Yeah,
smashing it. I'm feeling good. I haven't had to dip into the Red Bull yet. I may have to start doing that fairly soon, but it's like, once you go that route, then you kind of have to keep going with that route. So I'm trying to do it without performance enhancing drugs now. But thanks, J-Dub.
We still talking about the podcast?
Yes, I am still talking about the podcast. So
solid, maybe.
So I want to give. I've missed the last few hours giving some shout outs to people that have donated. I'm trying to get everyone's name and where they're from on the air for when you donated. So I'm going to whip through 20 of them right now. The first one happens to be our guest for the next hour. One of them anyway, Fergus Keating from Essex. We have Freddie Stebbings from London E2. We got Gary Howell from Scotch Plains, New Jersey. I believe Gary Howell is DWTT. Don't waste a tweet. Thank you, Gary, as always, for your very generous donation. We've got Gibby Stratton from Bainbridge Island, Washington. We've got Jaban Chada, always very generous to the cause, San Diego, California. Glenn Fisher from Clarksville, Tennessee. Graham Denton from Newport, Michigan. Hugo Chapman from London. NW6, not far from where I used to live. Ian Morgan from Stevenage. A guy named Inclusive Sport from, maybe that's a corporate credit card. Inclusive Sport from Herne Bay, England. Thank you to Jeff.
Just down the road from me, Herne Bay.
Oh, yeah, is it? Herne Bay. All right. Thank you to Jack Reifenberg from Loveland, Ohio. James Gauger from Charlotte, North Carolina. Jan Hartelust from Memphis, Tennessee. Janet Ziegler from San Antonio, Texas. We have Jared Carver, one of our own. He's one of our own. Thank you so much, Jared, from Lombard, Illinois. Jason Brigman from Austin, Texas. Jason Liss from Andover, Massachusetts. Jeff Lane from Austin, Texas. Jerome Marks from Enfield, although I know he's currently living in Israel. That's Melvin's son. Thank you, Jerome. And Jill Sfragio, who's a very close friend of mine from New Orleans, Louisiana, all have donated to Gooners v Cancer and helped us get to that $10,000 mark. Thank you so much. Let's give you the four questions, Steve, and then and we'll probably have a few minutes at the end to kind of come back to for the rest of it, and then we'll get the four questions from Max as well, because I think he's going to join us for the last few minutes. So, Steve, your top six.
Mikey, I'll be right back. Steve-O, handle it.
Okay.
Yep.
We're alternating P breaks. Steve, your
top six in order.
In any order. It doesn't have to be
in any order. In any order. City, Arsenal, Newcastle, United, Liverpool, and is that it?
You got one more. And Brighton. All right. So no Chelsea, no Spurs, no no Chelsea, no Spurs.
Yeah, no Chelsea, no Spurs.
Okay. Your Ballon d'Or projected winner.
It's January, isn't it?
No, I think they do it pretty soon.
Yeah, Messi.
Okay.
Do you
Messi. Think he should win, or do you think he just will win?
I think he just will win. I do think Haaland should win.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the narrative. I think Messi wins, Haaland probably should have. The first coach in the Premier League to get sacked this season.
Get sacked. I don't even know the name, but the guy at Luton.
Okay. Yeah, I just put Luton in here. That's the same one that Mikey actually said.
Yeah, I just think he'll struggle to adapt to the Premier League, and I think they'll have to get someone in who knows the Premier League, and Allardyce, Pulis, Warnock.
Let's talk about this because we have time. I mean, this guy brought them to the promised land from fourth division, 4 or 5 years ago, all the way.
Eddie Howe did it with Bournemouth,
He did the bottom to the top thing. They spent virtually no money adding to their squad. I mean, they're going back down. You know, they're going to do the whole parachute money thing, but I mean, they did not improve their squad in any real meaningful way, and they're playing like a team in a league that they shouldn't be in right now. Is that the coach's fault? Why should he get sacked? And I know you're not saying that he should be sacked. You're just saying that you think he will be. But I mean, I just don't understand that.
I think the thing with Luton is I watched the two. Obviously, I've got Sunderland ties. If people didn't know, but so I watched both semi-finals with against Sunderland, and the game at the Stadium of Light, Sunderland played them off the park. They used their pace. They used their wide players. They're very good at Luton. These guys it was like Space Jam. They're big physical guys, and they just bullied Sunderland. They bullied Sunderland, and I said like that will help them a little bit in the Premier League next season if they go up. But they haven't got the footballing ability as a side, and unless they change something, then they are going to come straight back down. And I think they will. I think they will come straight back down. And I think what will happen is they'll see the squad, they'll see everything that's maybe not working. And first port of call will be, let's change the manager because we've got to change the style of play. We've got to have a plan B with the players that we've got, or they'll use the January window and bring some players in, maybe on loan. But I think first port of call will be manager's got to change. And it always is with those kind of sides.
Yeah, I think they're the exception to the rule of that making any sense, because unless they, I mean, it doesn't really matter who you bring. Maybe they should bring in Ancelotti, see what he can do with a Luton town. Ladies and gentlemen, okay, gentlemen. I mean, I know who our audience is. No, seriously, ladies and gentlemen,
always the divas that show up late, man.
Joining us at last, and this is Fergus's worst nightmare. He thought he was going to get away with it, but he's not.
We're going to talk about the price of used cars tonight. I have a feeling.
Let's talk about time difference and being in Australia and having daylight savings. I fucked up.
Why is it so sunny over there, Max?
It's literally daytime. The first day where the sun has come out.
So what time is it exactly for you here in what is it, Brisbane?
Right. Melbourne. Right now it's
Melbourne.
It's 5 to 4 right now.
Right.
But I thought the time difference had 4. Me starting at 4.
All right. Well, I should have done the translation.
Very skinny men. Can I just say, very skinny men here.
Yeah. When are you getting the reverse operation, by the way? Where they place 100 pounds of meat inside your body, and then it just,
I'm currently actually quite fat. For me, every time my wife's pregnant again, every time I get fat, every time she gets pregnant, I get fat.
Every time I get fat, she gets pregnant.
Actually, both of those things are true, Mike.
I hate it when people that are 80 pounds lighter than me say this is me fat. God, I hate it so much.
Let's
by the way, good. The rig is sloppy.
Speaking of which, let's play a game. In the last 2 years, Mikey Herz, what do you think the total amount of weight that Steve and I have lost together is?
In what form?
Okay, let's just put it this way. From our high point to now, what's the total amount of weight that we've lost?
I need a converter from pounds to kilograms. I only understand kilograms.
Go pounds. Go pounds. I know it in everything.
Do I just round it up, Mike?
You can
300.
Oh, you're way low.
Way low.
I'm low.
Way low.
Way low.
I've got 396.8 is what I think you've lost.
Oh, that's probably close. How much have you lost, Mike?
I'm
because you are looking great, by the way. I haven't said it yet. But really, you are.
He looks horrible to me. Like every time I see him, I'm like, God damn it, Mike.
I'm down
so much jolly.
I'm down 150 to 151 right now.
Oof. Okay, so Max is just shy. So I've lost 217.
That's unfucking believable.
217 pounds. My highest low point was exactly 16 stone on the dot. So that would have been 200. That would have been 224. But I was really sick and I lost 11 pounds in a week. And then as soon as I was fine and smoked a couple of spliffs and I ate fine, it went back on. So, yeah.
Well, I put on 40 pounds. I'm 40 pounds heavier.
It's time for you.
So it is also
time
crazy.
for you to get surgery. I'm sending doctors over to your house to perform surgery right now.
So last year, Max, whilst you're here, there so I run a music venue in town, and there was a band over the Scargate, which is a Scar festival, and this guy that was sort of their MD, their tour manager, he said he was from Melbourne. His name was Steve. They call him Big Steve. And he was like, oh, I'm from Melbourne. I was like, oh, fuck, whereabouts? And he's Victoria. And I was just like, what the fuck? Like, asked him if he knows your place. And he occasionally pops in for a drink at your place because he loves a good gin. Good. And I was just like, well, next time you're there, tell Max that you know Big Steve and that you're Big Steve. And that'll be wild.
That's
crazy.
A small world.
Yeah, it is.
Excellent.
It's mental.
I like that Big Steve has now become a joke. Because you're not big anymore. It's there is no point in changing it. There's no point because now you're just Big Steve with big attitude and big personality.
See, this is what people say, but
it's like it's like me being Magic Mike. I'm no longer Magic, but I'm going to keep the name. I mean,
you're Magic because you've disappeared. Like
yeah, that's true.
Turn sideways now, and you can't see you. But I get it at every gig now. It's like, oh, you know, people are so surprised that I still go out as Big Steve. And I have to explain it. And I'm like, well, I'm still Big Steve, but I used to be Big Steve.
No matter how thin you get on the outside, you're always going to be a fat motherfucker to me on the inside.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
That is just about the sweetest thing. I bet that should be on a postcard.
Yeah, I was going to say Max actually works for Hallmark, writing cards. So yeah, it's very sweet of him. We are going to be drawing now this hour's winner, and this prize yet once again we have a Ruth Beck art piece, an A3, which is the official dimensions of an A3 are nice and big, and we are going to draw a winner for that. This time I will remember to actually give you warning to do the drum roll because I screwed that up last hour.
Just before, I think I only had 3 questions.
That's true. I did not ask you for the
the
out of left field prediction of something a little wacky and off base that you think will happen in the world of football. So think about that while I'm doing the prize draw here.
Okay.
The winner. Let me share the screen. All right, Mikey, it's time. Do your job. Nicholas Robinson, who was from Paddock Wood, TN12. Where is Paddock Wood, guys?
Kent, TN12 near Tunbridge, I believe.
Thank you to Nicholas Robinson. I was just writing down his name, and instead I wrote Pat, which is not his name. But thank you, Nicholas, for your generous donation, for supporting the cause. Thank you to everybody that's done that. And yes, now you can give real quick. Give me your out of left field. Is out of left field something that's just American because it's kind of a baseball
thing, right? Yeah.
All right. So your unexpected thing that will happen in world football this year.
I think Kai Havertz will hit double figures for the season.
In goals plus assists or in goals?
In goals.
Wow. Okay.
You are talking loco, and I like it.
Yeah. Well, it could.
I think we'll do it.
Now, will it be for the U23s or for the first one? All right.
Who knows? He might even go on loan to Plymouth in January and
hit double figures there. You know, you can do that. We are now 13 hours in. We are virtually at the midpoint of the Podathon, and this, ladies and gentlemen, might be my favorite crossover of them all. We've had Clive on with FK, and then and then who else joined him? Dave Seeger came on. We've had Ryan Rocastle crossing over with who was it? Henry Winter, but this is the best one of the year right here. Let me make sure Max and Fergus are next to each other. There we go. Welcome to the Guns and Ribbons, folks. Fergus Hills, Trev Hills. Thank you so much for getting up early, especially you, Trev, because this would not normally be an hour that you would be getting up, but you've done it for me. And Max and Fergus, have you met?
Yeah,
I've been mourning. Ireland's Euro campaign is over.
You avoided me. You thought you avoided me, Fergus, but you didn't.
Hey, listen, I thought you were late. I thought you were out buying a used car.
Well, I mean, you'd be the first fucking person. You'd be the first person I'd call if I needed a 1982 BMW with 400,000 on the clock, wound back to 250.
Yeah, he was trying to return home, but the car that you sold him broke down on the side of the road, and he couldn't make it.
Yeah, the car that I never sold. I haven't sold a car in 30 years.
I love how you have to point that out. Like you know we're taking the piss, but you still have to point out that you're not actually.
Listen, I got to keep you awake. It's 13 hours in.
Fergus, like how little Steve will always be fat on the inside, you will always be a fucking car salesman, no matter what you do.
That's fine. That's fine. As long as you say salesman, I don't care what I sell, as long as I sell.
Well, it's not that he has to be a car salesman. It's that he has to do whatever you tell him that he does.
I remember the pod it was 3 years ago, because somehow I always end up on this pod with Max, and I just remember Ferguson trying to explain to Max, cutting him off. You are whatever the I tell you are.
Max and I communicate 3 times a year, and it's that every single time. We just I'll like be searching for something on my phone, and it'll accidentally bring up Max's name on it. I'm like, oh, okay, it's been a few months. Let me send him the video, because I have like the video curated and ready to go. I should have uploaded it so we could do it here.
Trev, you can come in 15 minutes time. It's all right. They're not bringing you on yet.
No, we're doing that. I'm sorry. We have to get to the giving shit the Fergus hour. In the chat we have Princess Gooner, Amanda's in the house, Ruth Beck in the house. We've just given away a couple of your prints. I don't know if you saw that, but we are giving away your print to Nick.
Has Anonymous won anything yet?
I'm sorry?
Has Anonymous won anything yet?
The heathens again. Have some shame, Fergus. Have some shame.
Yeah, explain to the 89 in chat right now why you are rooting for Anonymous.
I'll let Trevor do it, because he's seething.
Very elegantly explain it.
Because the other night when we were talking on the Guns and Ribbons podcast, Mike let slip that there'd been loads and loads of anonymous people kindly giving money to the great cause, and he also said that they were anonymous, and these anonymous people would be in the draw, and they wouldn't get a prize if they were drawn out. And so Fergus decided to change his name to Anonymous, which is shameful. Shameful. I'm embarrassed to say I know the man, to be honest.
I'm not the smartest man, but I know what cheating is, and that is not allowed.
No, it's Keating, not cheating.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yes, we've gotten a number of. They just spelled it wrong in Ireland.
Yeah.
We've gotten a number of anonymous donations, which is it's a very kind thing to do. Obviously, some people either don't want to have their name up on the thing, or they aren't giving for that reason. And I just want people to know that if your intent is to donate without your name being public, but yet you do want to be entered in the prize draw, the way to do that is to click the box that says, just put my donation in and not my name, but it'll at least give it to us on the back end. When you do a true anonymous donation, I can't put you in the prize draw, because obviously none of the information transmits. So thanks for your donation, and Mr. Anonymous, and Fergus is trying to take all of that from us. So we are going to wave goodbye to the guests from the 6 a.m. Eastern UK time hour. Max,
just before I do go,
yeah,
Mike, I do want to just get a little bit deep, right? Football. I work with a bunch of guys that don't get football, don't do football. But I made a point the other day when sharing sharing a post about the podcast. What you do, what Fergus does, what Max does, Mike, you know, we're all together for all different points of the world because of this great club. And if that ain't a beautiful thing, I don't know what the fuck is. You doing what you doing, and over 10,000 already for just this podcast. Amazing. And all because of our mutual love for the Arsenal. You know, I've met 3 of you here. And yeah, it's a beautiful thing. And I think, yeah, if people can keep on donating, if they're in a position to do so anonymously or otherwise, fantastic. And, you know, support the guys that are doing these podcasts, because without your support, we don't get the platform to do this thing. Mike doesn't have the platform to do this. And yeah, just keep it up. And thank you for having me on at 6 a.m. I'm knackered.
Well said, Steve. An hour.
Thank you for volunteering. Yeah. Thank you for being available to me then, and I can't wait to see you the next time we're over. I hope. It's been a little too long. We can actually hug and get our arms around each other. But thank you so much, Max. Short but sweet.
That's what I'm all about.
Enjoy the free hour that you now have that you didn't think you had. If you want to terrorize Fergus from the chat, you can do that.
I'm just going to sit here and go back to doing more study now that I have a beer in front of me. But Arsenal to finish second, Chelsea to finish mid-table.
Hold on, we didn't get your 4 questions. So top 6.
Go for it.
Top 6.
I'm gonna go back to bed. Give me a text when you're finished. Yeah.
Top 6. City 1, Arsenal 2.
Doesn't have to be in order.
3. Liverpool 3, Man U 4. I think Newcastle will miss out. I think Chelsea will miss out. I think probably Brighton will be up there, top 6.
And one more.
Fucking West Ham.
All right. First coach to get sacked this season in the Premier League.
West Ham.
I'm not sure those 2 things are likely to both happen. Although maybe it's as a reaction to it. No, seriously,
that'd be an epic comeback.
You think Moyes?
No. I don't think Moyes. I definitely think fucking who's in charge at Everton at the moment? Dyche.
No one. All right, Dyche, the Ballon d'Or winner.
Ooh,
not who you think it should be, but who you think it will be.
Who I actually genuinely think it will be Martin Odegaard.
I love you so much right now, Max.
That's genuinely what I think will happen. I genuinely think he's on the cusp of being the best midfielder in the world.
But I'm talking about like they've already nominated the people and they're about to announce it in a month. I'm not talking about like next year.
I didn't even know who's fucking nominated at the moment.
Bakayo Saka running down the wing. Saka
won't win it.
All right, so who will win it? I'm not telling you who's nominated. Who do you think was the best player in the world last year?
Erling Haaland.
Okay. And a prediction, which I think you're going to excel at this because you got a great imagination. A prediction that would be kind of completely out of the blue, something people wouldn't expect to happen in world football this year.
Yeah, I've got to go with Steve. I've got Kai Havertz, 20 goals and assists combined for Arsenal in the first team, and to have an absolute breakthrough rip snorter of a year for us.
I didn't go that far.
Yeah, I mean you've just you've just blown it out. So Max, appreciate it, man. Take care. I hope your wife doesn't get pregnant too many more times. Otherwise,
no more fucking babies, mate.
You're gonna end up like me, Max.
You should have just left it at no more fucking.
Well, right, she's not getting pregnant. She uses the wrong fucking towel.
Okay, goodbye.
Bye.
See you later.
It's been cancelled.
Hey Gooners, this is Alan Smith.
This is Kevin Campbell.
Lee Dixon.
Colin Lewin.
It's Gary Lewin.
Charles Watts.
Dan Potts. James Benge.
Stanley. Tom from the Gooner Talk here.
Ryan O'Cross.
Simon Collins. You may know me from the Evening Standard.
You may know me for my time at Arsenal.
You may know me from Arsenal or even the hybrid squad.
I'm a Birdcat Wonderland.
Being that physio sat on the bench next to Arsenal with my rubber gloves on.
The former Arsenal physio.
The Emirates press box, from writing, from Twitter.
From goal.com, from Twitter, from YouTube.
Football is the beautiful game and it brings us all together.
Sometimes there are things even more important than wins and losses.
And yes, even transfers.
Every 30 seconds, someone in this world gets diagnosed with blood cancer.
The Leukemia and Lymphoma Society works towards curing blood cancers
and provides support to families currently dealing with these diseases.
Gooners vs Cancer was started in 2017
by a lifelong Gooner who lost his father to leukemia way too young.
Since 2017, Gooners v Cancer has raised
over $75,000 for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society.
And we need your help to keep the fundraising going in this year's campaign.
Every donation helps.
Every donation helps.
Every donation helps.
Every donation helps.
No matter the size.
And every donation enters you into the Gooner raffle,
where you have a great chance to win amazing Arsenal prizes,
including game tickets, stadium tours,
signed men and women's shirts,
and maybe a retro signed shirt by yours truly, Lee Dixon.
Me, yours truly.
Yours truly, Super Kick Out.
So much more.
It's easy to take part.
Just go to www.goonersvcancer.com
and donate directly to the charity.
Pick the raffle prizes you want to enter to win,
and wait for the drawings at the end of the campaign.
Again, that's www.goonersversuscancer.com.
We all know that victory grows out of harmony.
Victory grows out of harmony.
Victory grows out of harmony.
With your help, we'll be victorious against blood cancer once and for all.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you for your support.
Thanks for your support.
Thanks for your support.
Thank you for your support.